lawyers have is they're already using the law. Because if they're holding dual Pakistani-US nationals in Bagram or somewhere else, and that injunction was allowed to stand, they would be in contempt of court. So the appellate court, after they did our hearing, didn't rule until Clapper. And then they used Clapper to say, Hedges doesn't have standing in Clapper, therefore he doesn't have standing in the lawsuit against the NDAA. And that allowed the court to essentially avoid having to rule on the issue, because the stripping of due process and the use of the military to carry out extraordinary rendition of American citizens cannot be defended constitutionally. It is an egregious, stark violation of our constitutional right to due process and to the prohibition of the military as a policing force on American streets. Why? Why do we have wholesale surveillance? Why do we have the NDAA? Why has the Obama administration used the Espionage Act 8 times to shut down whistleblowers? People like Thomas Drake, Snowden, of course, has been hit with this. And the combination of the Espionage Act coupled with wholesale surveillance, and we are the most photographed, monitored, eavesdropped, recorded population in human history. So, and I covered the Stasi state in East Germany. Why is it all coming together? And I think it's because in all of the scenarios that they run, they understand that the galloping effects of climate change, coupled with a prolonged economic stagnation, and maybe we're not in a depression, but we're certainly in a stagnant economy. I mean, real wages have either remained stagnant or declined since the early 1970s, means there will be some kind of blowback. They know something's coming. And they are preparing both the legal and physical mechanisms for a response. It's why all these police departments are getting Kevlar jackets and long-barreled weapons and APCs. And I mean, if you do, a SWAT team does a drug bust in Oakland in the middle of the night, kicks down their doors, everybody's dressed in black, they've got M16s, there's command-to-command APC outside, there may even be a helicopter. No difference between that and a night raid in Fallujah. And that's what always happens that within empire, that the techniques for control on the outer reaches of empire migrate back into the heart of empire. And empires always collapse internally. They hollow themselves out from the inside, which is what we're doing to our universities, to our infrastructure, in the name of austerity. And at this point, the mechanism, the liberal establishment, the institutions that, as Karl Popper wrote, makes piecemeal or incremental reform possible. That capacity that Roosevelt had to adjust the system to save capitalism is gone. And as Karl Marx rightly said, unregulated, unfettered capitalism is a revolutionary force. Because without self-imposed limits, it commodifies everything. Human beings become commodities, the natural world becomes a commodity that it then exploits until exhaustion or collapse. And that's why the environmental crisis is intimately twinned with the economic crisis. 40% of the summer Arctic sea ice melts, and Shell Oil looks at it as a business opportunity, dropping $500 million, the death throes of the planet. In theological terms, these corporate forces are forces of death. And they will sacrifice the next generation and succeeding generations for short-term profit. And there is now no capacity we have through the formal systems of power to ameliorate or to protect ourselves from a rapacious corporate capitalism, a global neo-feudalism, which is supranational. It has no, they're not like the Mellons or the Rockefellers or the Carnegies, or they don't have any loyalty to the nation state. I mean, these people at least physically were men. You may have been shooting everybody in Ludlow and Homestead, but they were physically within the nation. Now it's gone. It's dissipated. You have most of what's produced in Dickinsonian sweatshops in Bangladesh or southern China. And we have in many ways gone back to the horrific conditions of labor that we saw in the 19th century. There's a very fine book by, I think, our greatest living political philosopher, Sheldon Wolin, called Democracy Incorporated, which I urge you to read. And